What's up everyone, Soldier First Class here. In today's mission, we're going to talk about normal enemies from the original game that could be new boss fights in Final Fantasy VII Remake. Enemies are larger and more detailed than ever before, so some of them could become new boss fights. Stay tuned soldiers, it's time for our next mission. Final Fantasy VII Remake is clearly a much larger project than the original game. Bigger environments, bigger enemies, and bigger battles have all become a major part of the remake. Director Tetsuya Nomura once stated in an interview that new enemies were being added to the game where needed. Along with this likely comes new boss fights as well, and to clarify, I'm not talking about the new soldier character or the Watchman of Fate. We'll be discussing enemies we've seen in the trailers and enemies found in the original game that could be turned into boss fights in the remake. So first I'd like to talk about Eligor. Eligor is a normal enemy found in the train graveyard area in the original game. He's found after the party defeats Apps in the sewers, but just before the party reaches the pillar. It's hard to tell if that's the same location in the remake, as the trailer just shows the party in a wide open concrete area. There's actually a few reasons why I believe Eligor has become a boss fight. The first reason is his cinematic entrance. We've seen from the sweeper enemy that even though the sweeper is bigger now, it doesn't enter the fight cinematically. For a while now, cutscenes for boss fights have been a regular occurrence in Final Fantasy, and this appears to be no different. Then there's the fact that his design slightly differs this time around. Eligor is much larger in size and carries a scythe around with him. This could lead to him having some massively damaging physical attacks worthy of boss-like numbers. The final reason is due to the presence of Shiva. As we see in the cutscene here, she's using Diamond Dust against Eligor. We know from Tokyo Game Show that summons are only available in large-scale battles or in special circumstances. This typically means wide open areas and in boss fights. While you may be saying that this screenshot shows Ifrit pummeling the sweeper enemy, you can also see this is a wide open area. Put all of this evidence together, and I believe that Eligor is one of the new boss fights we'll encounter in Final Fantasy VII Remake. Now I really want to emphasize the part where Nomura stated new enemies were added where needed. It's unclear from this statement if he meant brand new enemies, or if he meant enemies that never appeared in the beginning of the original Midgar. This is where my mind started wondering just what enemies that could mean. In my mind, there's two specific ones that it could be. The first one that comes to mind is the Malboro. This large smelly creature is the thing of nightmares, and rightfully so. I could definitely see a Malboro making an appearance in Midgar. Depending on how they handle leveling, a Malboro enemy could be a great challenge for the late game. In different games in the franchise, it's felt like a boss fight, and even games like Final Fantasy XV featured it as a boss fight. So with the action combat, the size of the enemy, and the circumstances surrounding its abilities, this very well could be a boss fight in Final Fantasy VII Remake. Here's the scenario I could see it happening in. You're in a heavily industrialized area of the slums, broken down Mako pipes everywhere, it's dark, humid, and with a foul stench in the air. Then all of a sudden you see bright sharp teeth and a wide gaping mouth. The mighty Malboro slides into the light and you're forced to fight back. This could make for a very scary and frustrating fight. The Malboro never made an appearance in Midgar, however the reason I could see it in the first game is because of the order in which things appear. Midgar never featured summons in the original game and we already have a confirmed 5, so that argument should just be thrown out the window. Next up is one that I could see being used as a trap by Shinra in order to try to finish off Avalanche. That enemy is the Behemoth. With all of Shinra's science experiments, they've definitely captured large-scale enemies in an attempt to use them as military might. The Behemoth would be the perfect creature and are another creature in the original that wasn't a boss fight but have the potential to be in the remake. Here's a scenario for the Behemoth. You walk into a sector, but Shinra knows you're coming. They close off either side of the location you're in and unleash the Behemoth on the party. It now becomes a fight for survival as the King of Beasts attempts to make you his next victims. Final Fantasy XV featured a massive Behemoth boss fight in the game's first area, and it played really well. There is actually a history of Behemoths in the original Midgar. Once the party parachutes into the city, they land in Sector 8. The Behemoth is then found in this segment as a standard enemy. Much like the Malboro, it really depends on how powerful they want the characters to feel in this first part. This one will definitely be a boss fight at some point, just maybe not in the first game. This is one I don't necessarily think will be in Midgar, but this monstrosity is another boss fight waiting to happen. The heavy tank is a fan favorite enemy and one that a lot of people wonder how it will actually work. It's the only enemy fought at the broken reactor and could very well be a boss fight in the same location. There's not much to really say scenario wise for this one, but I definitely could see this massive enemy becoming a boss fight. And finally, there's one enemy in Midgar that everyone is talking about, and that's Hell House. This awkward as hell monster is one that some believe won't be in the remake at all. While this is definitely a possibility, it's also a possibility that it will be a boss fight. This highly recognizable enemy is a normal enemy from the Sector 6 slums. Let's say the party is running from Shinra and they need a place to hide. They stumble upon this house, hiding behind it as Shinra soldiers run past. Then it happens. The house comes alive and takes on its monstrous form and attacks the party. Even in the beginning of the game, this enemy can sneak up on you and cause a game over if you underestimate it. I also don't see it being a spawned enemy either because it doesn't make a lot of sense compared to the other enemies we've seen so far. It's a very large creature and it features high HP and attack for this stage in the game and could very well become a boss fight in Final Fantasy VII Remake. Overall, there are a lot of enemies that could get the boss fight treatment, and with Midgar being massively expanded upon, they'll need to fill the game with plenty of boss fights. With the scale of enemies and areas being larger than ever, I could definitely see all of these getting the boss fight treatment. So what do you think, soldiers? Are there any enemies you could see as boss fights in Final Fantasy VII Remake? Thanks for watching, and don't forget to omni-slash that like button. Let me know in the comments section below what enemies you think could be boss fights in Final Fantasy VII Remake. Subscribe to the channel, and ring that notification bell to join the ranks of Soldier today. And for all the latest Final Fantasy VII Remake news, rumors, and trailers, I'm Soldier First Class, and I'm on to the next mission. Later, guys.